basketball and stuff. And it was the same thing for the females. They started from, on the dirt floor playing ball, and that's where they developed their skills and stuff.
So we are going to talk about the town of Andrews and like how it came up. So did you know that the first mayor, William H. Andrews, was actually white man? What?
Yes, in Andrews. I mean, that was before my time. I was a little boy during that time, but because Andrews existing with the charter back in 1909. And as I grew up, I can remember the mayor that I was attached to. Remember, his name was Mayor Brooks. Mayor Brooks had owned another sawmill, was on the other side of town. And he was the mayor for a number of years in Andrews. Then he moved to Columbia. And during that time, you had different other mayors stepped in. You had a mayor by the name of, just go way back. It was some deep mayor. I know that I can't think of his name. No, well, Lovett Anderson came along. It was a long time in between. From Anderson came here, I think around about the 90s. I think the 90s might have been a little later. It might have been a little later, maybe in the early 2000s, some years. He came in at first, and I think he did a couple of terms. And then from him, you had, I think it was Rodney Giles went in pursuit of mayor after Mr. Lovett's term was up. Then after Mr. Lovett's term was, Mr. Giles' term was exposed, then you had Mr. Dorsey. He took over mayorship for a number of years. And I know during that time it was in the 2005 years, 2006, like that. Then after he finished his term, then our hometown hero came back to Andrews, Mr. Frank McCleary. And then he ran for mayor in the 2010, someplace in that area. Then he got into mayor. I think this is his second term around, which now is his 2023.
Is the town of Andrews the same like it was back in the day?
No, the town of Andrews have dropped down a long ways. Back in the early days, I'm going to go by street to street. In the early days, you had start from the old Rosemary was sitting in the National Guard Army during that time. Then we're going to start from the first business. I born and raised at the place called the Blue Flame Cafe. And that existed. In fact, the building is still standing, but that existed for a number of years. Then from that, you had across the street from that came during the time in the 60s when I was coming up as a teenager. They built the flat top. That's where we had to hang out at. And that went on for a number of years till, it deteriorated with time and people changing life and dying and stuff like that. And then on from that, you had your ice house and different other business up and down. But the main thing about the black business, I'm going to give you all the black business that I can think of on the left side of town. At the Piney Grove Baptist Church, you had on Poplar Street, you had a place called the Taxi Stand. That was the taxi station run by Mr. Lee Williams back in the early days. Then next door to him, you had Sparkman Shoe Shine Stand. That was back in the early days. And from that, next door, you had McCullough Barbershop. These all was black business. And from McCullough Barbershop, you had a place called the Little Red Rooster, which had a lady used to run it named Miss Leaner. And from the Little Red Rooster, you had a place, Mr. Bobby Jackson Barbershop. Good business. Then from that, you had the Pittman store, was a little convenience store. You go in and get a little whatnot things and whatever. Then behind Mr. Pittman's store, you had a grist mill run by Mr. Raw Art. That stayed there for many years. People come in town with corn. That's where you take your corn and get your corn ground up into grist. Now, these are the black business, which Mr. Roy was a white man. Then cross from Now we're going across Beach Avenue. Now one of the biggest businesses back during that time was Fred Green Cafe. This was a black man. He was an entrepreneur. He had built a nice station on that corner of Beach and Main Street. It was a service station. It was a cafe. You had a beauty salon up top, and you had a barber shop up top. And the next door to that, you had the funeral home. And then you had a cleaners. All this was consumed in one business. Now across from him, you had, on the opposite side of the street, you had a place called, it was a little club, a black club, Mr. Henry Thompson Cafe, Miss Hattie. Then from that next door, you had another black business, Paul Hammond, which that store is still there today. Then you had another store in between Mr. Hammond was Mr. Perry's store. Then from Mr. Perry's store, you had Gussie Thompson, which that the mayor preside on that property right now that he bought that, which did good. Now, after that, my time is but run out with the layout for the black business. But that was pretty well covered all the black business during that time, you know. And then after that, things just start deteriorating in town. After, I'll say maybe in the 1990, you know, things just start, it's going away. You had big stores coming in like Walmart and stuff like that, sort of shut down the mom and pop store in little towns.
Can you tell us about some past or present churches that were here and that's in some of the pastors that made an impact on Andrews? And do you remember about their sort of people?
Yeah, okay. You had one of the oldest church, I think, in Andrews, black church, is St. Andrews AME Church on the corner of Beach and what is it, Ashland? No, Oakland. That's one of the oldest church. And you know that, well, Prof. Smith father was the minister there, and some related to Mrs. Means, which she's dead and gone. Now you had another powerful church in town was Piney Grove. During that time, we had a representative, was the minister there, B.J. Gardner. And B.J. Gardner opened up a whole lot of doors for black females in the town of Andrews. He's the one got the black people into Oneida as a whole because he took them down there in buses to apply for job. And during that time, this was in the early 60s. And the door really opened for black people to go in there and, you know, get a decent job where they can get benefit and a foundation. Yes.
We know that segregation was back in that time.
Yes.
So how did segregation and like all that stuff made you feel?
Well, it was bad. It was bad because like coming up, it's places where you couldn't go in. If you wanted anything to eat, you had to go to the back door. And you couldn't sit in the movies anywhere. You had to sit up top because you couldn't go down to the bottom. And you go into a doctor office that had colored, had white. You had to go into the colored side, which that was bad. Then you go in the colored side, then you sit in there all day long when they took care of all the white people. That's how it been. Go ahead.
So we know we got some famous people from South Carolina.
Yes.
And was Chubby Checker really from Andrews?
Chubby Checker was about 7 miles out of Andrews, but he was so close to Andrews that he used to be in Andrews daily. You know, his family. They have good ties to Andrews. In fact, Chubby Checker used to come to my grandmother's place, the Blue Flame. His whole family, they'd come there and which that my great-grandmother was a great cook. She had a great layout for food to eat. And she was, I tell you, she was pretty close, coast to coast, known as the Blue Flame restaurant in the city of Andrews. whole lot of truckers would travel, come to and stop. And that's how she got her reputation, because good food travels. Good food, yes.
Do you remember when the town hall was on Main Street where the current museum is located?
I can remember that. In fact, that's where I got my first license from during that time. And that was back in the days. And it was like where it was the town hall. They had a couple of sales in there because I can remember when guys was locked up over the weekend, and I can remember somebody sending a message down to my grandmother that they needed something to eat, and she will fix the meal, whatever, and whatever. I can take it in, and she said, "Take this to City Hall because City says one in jail and he's hungry." And I used to do that back in the days. And this is back in the 50s. I was a little boy now. Just might be a little bigger than yours right now.
So, what is your biggest memory of the town of Andrews?
The biggest memory I got of the town of Andrews, I can remember as I coming up as a young man, the streets of Andrews used to be so full come Friday, Saturday, and Sunday that you have to walk off the sidewalk in order to pass up and down Main Street in 2 blocks now. This is in our black blocks, where the black business was at. That's just how prosperous Andrews was. It was good back then.
When what was Andrews like when Oneida was at full capacity?
Oh, Andrews was booming. Andrews was booming. You had all the stores there was open, and what makes a town prosperous is when people got money to spend. You had shoe stores here, you had clothing store, you had a couple more grocery store, and money was an object then.
How did Oneida change Andrews?
Oneida changed Andrews before or after?
Like
Like now?
like when it came.
When it came, Oneida opened the gate because it was jobs. Like I said, people was able to buy homes, buy cars, and save a little money. And when you can save a little money and buy your own stuff, then you got a voice to stand on. Until Oneida get you, it was like, you was in doing domestic work, cleaning houses, working all day for nothing. But that's the only way you had, to put some bread in your mouth.
This might be a crazy question, but can you tell us how far God has brought Andrews?
Well, God had brought Andrews a long ways, a long ways. And what I like to see today when Andrews can go back to full capacity, when all of these stores that remain in here can be full with stock, and people got the doors open and people can, prosper that we have to ride to Georgetown just about for everything that we need here. And it's sad, but it is what it is.
So what would you like to see different from the natives in Andrews?
In Andrews, well, I like to see people come together more, make this a better community to live in, and it could be done. But we have to put our personal agenda aside, and do what gonna make Andrews better.
You have more questions?
I'm running out, yeah.
Kind of just listen to what he's saying. So, tell us more about Rosemary.
Rosemary was
What was the experience?
experience at Rosemary. Rosemary was a school that it was about discipline. With Mr. Joseph G. Thompson, you can. He had a policy. The walkway was the walkway, not the grass. And at Rosemary was a grooming school. I mean, if you are students there and you walk by, you see a piece of paper grass or anywhere, he has instilled that in you. You pick it up and take it to the garbage can, and you didn't jump across the grass on any shit. You maintain on the walkway, and that was him. He would stand up at that office under that. You had a walkway with a cover all the way. Everyone made a walk on, and he'd stand there and he'd look when classes are changing, going from one building to another building. He'll stand there, man, like I'm gonna see who's gonna mess up. But it was discipline. You know, you respect the man. You have to respect the man because that's what he been about. He been about respect. And you didn't have no problem. You had, one or two bad knots. Once in a while, you have to go and get a little tanning. But then that's what it takes to keep you intact.
Why do you think that Mr. Joe Thompson was so hard on y'all?
No, he wasn't hard. He was just disciplined. He wanted to see that he can bring the best out of you, make you be a person that was reputable, had good character, and what he had most respect for too. On every Monday morning at school, we will assemble in the auditorium. We will have devotion. We will have singing, and we have Reverend Cooper that will pray for the upcoming week. That'll be a good, blessed week. And we will disperse to our class. Go ahead.
What do you think that needs to change in the schools today?
Well, we got to have some discipline. And what I like to see the teachers get more control of their classroom. Because right now they don't have control of their classroom. I hate to say it. But the law is so much different than what it been back then. And they got to give the teachers some leeway. Because right now I understand that people don't even want to be out there teaching the kids no more. I hate to say that, but it is the fact. But hope that we can get some more leeway for the teachers, because they're up under a whole lot of pressure, And two, before I finish, a whole lot could be done at home too. Because you begin at home. And if the basic is putting you at home, you can come on through the rank with no problem. But see, that is missing nowadays. I hate to say it, but not all, in some cases.